I was really happy with all of the work done in the last episode of this series. But after a little bit of mod and asset shopping on PDX Mods, I realized that I could do a little bit better. And so, since the last episode, I went in and rebuilt the Blackwater Transit Authority again, but this time around this wonderful old bus depot asset by Detective 93. And just because you probably noticed already, and if you haven't, you will, I also took that opportunity to rework a nearby highway connection and, based on your feedback, extended it across the river with one of these beautiful bridges from the Bridges and Ports DLC. So, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Skylines II. And welcome back to Columbia County. So we still have so much to do with this Blackwater rebuild, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I have been dabbling back and forth for a couple of days with regards to what exactly I'm going to do. And there's really only one thing that I'm certain about, and that is that for some reason I want to build the Ice Flake Arena out here. I just think it could be the coolest thing to have this arena in this space. I think it could be really cool, sort of just off there on its own, making up its own little part of the skyline in the distance. I don't know why. I don't know why I want to build this out here. I just know that I want this to be a focal point of this rebuilt Blackwater, and I kind of want it to be at this angle so that the logo for the arena is facing the rest of Blackwater, and so that anyone coming into the city from the south is going to go past it this way. Admittedly, anyone coming from the north isn't really going to see the logo, but that's okay. It's only on one side of the arena anyway, so I'm kind of limited in what I can do there. But this is just about the only thing I'm certain about. Well, this and the fact that I do want to build some kind of little tram hub thing next to this. I mean, we have a bus stop just around the corner. We'll have buses going into this space. We do have a tram stop over here as well, but I want this to be a really pedestrian forward space, a really public transit forward space, and that is about as much as I know that I want to do with this. I'm kind of clueless when it comes to the rest of what this place is going to look like. Although I do think we can connect it down to the Blackwater Transit Authority. If we go to this space right here, we can leave a gap of about 3 tiles on the left there. I might even leave a gap of, well, if I do a gap of 4, the road's not going to be central with this old bus depot. So I think we leave a gap of 3 tiles on the left here, and we can sort of surround that section of highway with a whole bunch of buildings. I think this road here, at least temporarily, I'm going to get rid of because I'm trying to figure out exactly where this avenue is going to cut through this space. And I'm kind of thinking roughly about here is where I want to go with this road. I want it to sort of be the backbone of this entire district, which means that we're going to want to go in and just bring this road forward a teeny tiny little bit further and then throw a nice complex curve into this thing so that hopefully we can get a good looking bend from one road to the other. And then I guess we bring this road straight back through here. We can turn off a bunch of our guidelines and whatnot to make sure it snaps properly, which it absolutely does. I would like to get my bike lanes back on this as well, because those are kind of important to me, and that's another thing that I want to try and bring into this new district. But I think that'll work pretty well as our main sort of backbone for what we're about to do. Although I'm also kind of thinking that bringing some one-way roads through here might not be the worst idea in the world. Just some roads that connect from over here to this main avenue. Mostly so we don't have all of our traffic going through essentially one single point into this district. Now, this little connection, this little one-way road just loops around for Daffodil Elementary and high school, so I'm not too worried about creating a four-way junction here because this road, despite all of the cars in the parking lots, isn't that busy. So I think we could get away with a little something like this, and I don't really know how that's going to work with the grids down here. I'm not really too worried about the grids just yet. I'm gonna be, absolutely gonna be, but for now, I'm just gonna do a very, very rough road layout for this entire space. I would kind of like to bring this down so that it doesn't mess up the grid here. I'm not too sure if that's going to be an option. Maybe I just don't connect it the whole way through just yet. That might be an option. And maybe we go for a two-way road and start building out some grids in here. Because something I'm thinking is that I want to do a mix of old buildings and new buildings. So probably German-style buildings with some of the urban promenade buildings as we get closer to the arena itself. So we're creating the idea that this is a bit of an older district, but at some point in history, a few blocks might have got flattened for the arena and for a very, very modern downtown development. And so what I think I'm going to do is go for some very, very small grids right here, some very, very small blocks so that we can make sure that we're getting all these beautiful corner buildings with the German buildings and with the urban promenade buildings. I think I'd also like to make sure that some of these roads are actually pedestrian streets, because again, we want to try and pedestrianize this, despite the fact that it is going to be quite heavy on grids, at least in this initial kind of area, because we do need to deal with some of the demand in Blackwater. That's kind of the main reason that I bulldozed all of this, not to spend, I mean, as much as I like my detailing and I like all of that stuff, the genuine reason for getting rid of so much of this was because we have, you know, huge demand for residential zoning, commercial zoning, for offices and all that stuff. So as much as I'm enjoying all of this detailing and the planned detailing, there are some needs that we need to deal with here. So we'll do a little something like this. I know that some of the pillars from the highway are on those roads right now. I'm not really super concerned about that. We can deal with that in just a little bit. Okay, so this is going to do for our initial layout for this space. There's a bunch of tram lines that aren't connected to anything just yet, but right in the middle, we do have a parallel tram station. We have a small bus station. We're gonna have to do a lot of work with those surfaces to make that into like a park plaza type thing. And we're going to be doing a lot of work around the arena itself to kind of do the same thing and make it feel very open and modern and clean and bright and fun and pleasant to be in. But for now, what I would like to do is start looking into some of the German buildings, because we can get a bunch of medium density German housing into these little blocks. And that's kind of what I would like to do to just start filling out some of this. I will say it probably isn't the most realistic thing in the world to just fill up this space with nothing but housing, but I'm sort of okay with that. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world if we do a bunch of kind of dedicated housing units out this way. It's not going to be pleasant, super close to the highway either. But again, we're kind of balancing what's going to look cool with what's going to deal with the demand that we have in the city. And so that's kind of why we're doing some German housing. German housing. That was terrible. German housing out this way. That's why we're doing that. What I would like to do as well, like I mentioned, is get some of the urban promenades buildings in here. Those are going to go a little bit closer to the arena itself, so in spaces sort of like this, and I'm kind of hoping that it's going to work nicely and that it's going to give us, well, you know, I realize these are all 8x8 squares, so all of these buildings that are being put together right here are almost certainly going to be exactly the same building. And so what I might actually want to do with the Urban Promenades buildings is use Find It to grab them and place them myself. So we'll do some level 1 buildings in this space. We'll go for level 3 and say that those can live in this space over here, which is going to be slightly tricky to do because I have to change the orientation of them ever so slightly, but I should be able to get that right about there. And then if we go to level 5, we'll get even bigger buildings, and those can live in this space right here. And because I placed those by hand, they're going to be locked and they're not going to change. And that way we have what is essentially the same building at 3 different levels. So we don't have exactly the same building. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And you know, I suppose what we could do is actually clear out some of these German Hausen over this way and replace them with some mixed use German buildings so that we aren't just solely putting houses right next to the highway. We're going to have a little mix of building types in here, and I think that'll probably be a smart thing to do just so we get a bit more variety in the styles of buildings in here and the uses of buildings in here. I think I'd also like to maybe get a little, just something along this avenue as well. I think right down to here could be a bunch of German buildings. I think, well, actually, maybe not this corner. Maybe down to about there. Maybe not that corner as well, but we do go down to about there. And then again, we go in with some Urban Promenades things, which in this case will, it's going to be the same building. That's something I hadn't really considered. I might want to go a little bit smaller on these Urban Promenades buildings just to avoid getting exactly the same thing in all of these spaces. I'm also kind of keenly aware that the terrain around here is a little bit of a mess right now, but I'm hoping the buildings will sort some of that out. Like, what's going on over there? What is this? How did this happen? What? Oh, I'm very confused about that. Let's just get that sorted out with a little bit of move it right there. These guys are also sitting way too high on that road. So all of these can be lowered down. And does that look better? It absolutely does. What are you doing? Oh my God. What have I done with the terrain around here? It's a bit of a mess, isn't it? It's not good. Again, I don't know if we're ever going to look at it that closely to really be able to tell that it's a mess, but it's a bit of a mess. Okay, so with some of these buildings in here, I think what I'd like to start doing is just working on some of the surfaces that we have around here. Now, on one hand, I kind of want to use some custom surfaces to make this place look all that bit more interesting. On the other hand, though, I do know that custom surfaces tend to overlap the tram lines and the roads and things like that, so I don't necessarily know that I want to deal with that. I haven't really decided just yet if I'm gonna have to. I mean, overlapping the trams could be neat. Putting something custom on top of those could also be neat. I just don't know if I want the hassle, and I'm sort of leaning towards the idea that I do. I started saying that sentence with the idea in my head of like, we're probably not going to do that. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, maybe we should overlap some of this with custom surfaces just to look a bit more interesting. For example, we have these really cool looking clay pavers right here. If I went to this spot and just sort of come down a little bit like this. Oh, that does look really cool, doesn't it? Just instantly, I've caved instantly. Oh no. I was kind of hoping, there's a little part of me was laying out this surface, and there's a little part of me was like, I really hope this looks terrible, because if it does, that's going to be my excuse to not do custom surfaces on these roads. But no, that looks terrible. There we go. We're not doing it. That's not how that's going to work. Oh, it's not unfortunate. It's good. Like it's good that it looks cool. I kind of hoped it wouldn't, because that would have been my excuse. But alas, here we are. Let's, oh man. I think this is genuinely the first time in Cities Skylines 2 that I've actually bothered to try and overlap a road with a surface. I've seen some people doing this. There's some creators do this and do it amazingly well and amazingly precise. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not one of those people. I'm going to do my best, and it's going to look a little bit janky, but I'm going to do my best. Oh, now hold on a second. What is this? Oh, we're really doing this. Okay, fair enough. Hello, Editor Dylan here. I haven't talked over Cities Skylines gameplay in a very, very long time. I'm doing it this time because there's actually a lot of long time-lapse sequences throughout this video. This one's like 3 minutes, but there's some later on that are a fair bit longer. And while I am sure I can find some great music to put over these, it just, there's something in me that cannot do like a straight 4.5, 5 minute time-lapse sequence with just music. I feel like I need to interject. It probably says something about me that I feel the need to interject my voice into something that could otherwise be a really chill little break in the video. People do often say that I talk too much in these videos, which is funny, and I don't really know what that means, because I feel like the whole point of these videos is that, I mean, going back years, my Cities Skyline stuff has always been referred to, at least for me and by some others, as like a one-man podcast thing. I'm usually talking about absolutely anything and everything while building stuff in Cities Skylines. We've done that a bit less in recent years, but this video might be a return to that because I've got only so much to talk about in these time lapses, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, what I'm doing at the moment is working on the plaza in front of the Iceflake Arena. This whole idea of centering a district around this arena is something I've been sitting on for a couple of days, and it's something I've been working on for a couple of days. I took some screenshots and threw them into Photoshop and sort of did some rough road layouts, which in hindsight I realize is stupid because I could have just loaded up the save and done the road layouts in the game. Why did I do that? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I came up with some rough road layouts that I thought would be kind of cool, and most of them were centered around the Iceflake Arena. Because in my head, I've seen Wembley Stadium in London and it's surrounded by buildings. The AO Arena in Manchester is right in the middle of the city and surrounded by buildings and trains and stations and all that good stuff. And I wanted to do something similar with the Iceflake Arena while also having it be a bit of a focal point for this district. And what's funny is, as we go through this video, you'll come to realize that I don't actually end up doing much with the Iceflake Arena. This video is very much going to serve as part 1 of 2, essentially, because I do a bunch of building and a bunch of detailing today, including in this space, but we don't finish the district. We don't finish the area immediately around the arena. One thing I do, and this is for sure, is spend a lot of time, and I really do mean a lot of time, placing trees, placing bushes, placing hedges, messing with surfaces, adding details, and in the end, I do come to really love this plaza in front of the arena. I think it looks kind of fantastic, and I really, really do enjoy it. I hope you do as well. But I just wanted to let you know that this is going to be a thing throughout this video. Little interjections from me in post, as well as the fact that we're not actually going to finish the thing that I've already set out to do today. It's a cool build, and I like what we end up with, but I just thought you should know. Anyway, I'm going to let the music play a little bit more. We're going to get back into the live gameplay. There'll be a thing in the top left of the screen that lets you know when it's switching from editor me to, I guess, city builder me in real time, so that, you know, when I'm talking about, you know, stuff I've already done or stuff I'm going to be doing. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's get back to it, and Editor Dylan will be back in like 10-15 minutes. Okay, so this little park project kind of got away from me and took absolutely forever, and I don't necessarily love it because it took so long. I mean, it's fine. It does what I need it to do. I just feel like it doesn't look like much right now, and maybe that's because there's nothing around it, and maybe that's because it took like 2 hours to just build this stupid looking thing. But there is still plenty of work to do in this space, and what I'd like to start working on is some kind of road that comes out and around our coast here, our river bank, I should say, not really the coast. I think I want to play with these key roads. Honestly, I think these might be the best bet for this. And what I'm gonna try my best to do here is just have this follow the shoreline the entire way through. Now that's not exactly doing what I'd want it to do. Let me just swap you out for something that isn't going to be snapping to the ground, because I think that's what was, yeah, that is what was going on there. So this is just going to come out here and bring the terrain up. I do like the detail that this gives us. I think it looks pretty cool. I'm kind of hoping that what I can do is just make this look not terrible. That's about my goal with this entire thing. So let's just see if maybe if we turn off snap to shoreline, I can kind of put this here, and I think that's fine. I think I'd like to go to this spot and then just go straight down this way for a little bit. So we have something that's kind of parallel with these existing roads. I think this guy is then going to come out and just sort of curve around really nice, a little something like this. And I want to say that's fine. As for this end of things, I do like this curve that we have out here. I think it looks pretty good, but I'm also sort of thinking that it might look pretty good to once again have a road here that is at least somewhat parallel with what we have going on in this space. Over this way, I'm kind of liking that same idea, although I'll be honest, it doesn't really work quite as well this time around, so maybe we want to reconsider this as a thing. I think at least here, we can kind of get away with that, although that does not really snap the way I would want it to. Let's try, oh, let's see, can I get this to work? That works. Yeah, that works a little bit better. Let's now find out if I can bring this around that corner without it looking absolutely terrible. So right out to there, right around to there, and I think that works. Again, it's not exactly perfect. It's maybe a little bit too, I say it's not perfect. It's maybe a little bit too perfect on that curve, but we will just see how it goes. Once again, we bring this guy out to here and just around to there. And it is going to mean that we bring the land out a little bit to meet this, but I don't mind that too much, because my thinking with this is that a lot of this land is also going to be park space. We will have some buildings in here. I kind of want to bring the trams out here as well. That's sort of my main thinking with a lot of this, and that's kind of why I want a bunch of these roads to be parallel, so I can do things like this, and so I can do little things like this as well. Can I get this to come out in a way that doesn't look terrible? I think to there and get rid of that part. That looks okay as far as I'm concerned. Over this way, this one will connect out. This is going to connect into those roads, and somehow I want to bring this tram out and around the bus or the train station. We'll figure out how that's going to work, but for now, at the very least, oh, hold on a minute. Is this terrain is all different heights, isn't it? Does this, I'm going to, oh, okay. I'm going to have to lower those key walls a little bit, because I'm not really willing to use move it to try and mess with that little park that I've built. I feel like that would be a terrible idea. So hopefully what we can do is grab all of this and then lower it to the height of the arena itself, since that is the height that we've been working with. So lowering all of that down, lowering all of this down should be a good move, and then lowering all of you guys as well down to about that height. That absolutely works. All I need to do now is get this to, that could be better. That curve, I don't love it. All right, so with some of the key around here, and with this little connection down here for some trams that a lot of people are walking along, fair enough, I want to go ahead and just put a potentially temporary tram line in here just to get people moving around. So what we'll do is, I guess, add a nice architectural tram stop right about here. And can I get one on the other side of that road? Is that gonna be a thing that it wants me to do? It doesn't necessarily want me to put it right across the road, which is weird. Is that okay? You know what? We'll put it there, and that'll be fine. We can move this one along a little bit to this spot, and that'll be fine as well. And then what we can do is maybe, let's see, we're going to come in here. We're going to go up to there. We're going to go around. I suppose we could have a stop over here. I don't think that would hurt. I think we can have a stop maybe, yeah, I want to say right there is honestly probably okay. I don't think that's the worst place in the world. And then maybe just a little stop in here as well. Maybe a little bit closer. Yeah, I think right in the middle about here and there. And then what we'll do is just have, let's see, how do I want to go about this? I think we want to go from here. We want to come in and go straight to this stop. We want to come out to here, the entire way around to here, down to this spot, and then back out to here. And that'll loop around really nicely, which is exactly what we're looking for. As for these other stops, we will just have one little tram line that loops kind of the entire way around this district and does not go out to that train station. And I think that's probably okay for now. When it comes to those tram lines, I kind of want to go for a really nice blue, I think, because I'm kind of leaning into the ice flake blue that we have right there. So I think a nice blue for these trams is probably a solid idea. We'll go for like a nice light blue right about there, I think is good. I wish I could copy a hex code for this color, because I'm not going to get it exact for this other tram line. But what I can do, I guess, is use the transit overview mod. And this way, if I filter by trams, I can open tramline 2, and I can just try my best to get these to be almost exactly the same color, which I want to say that right there is about as good as I'm going to get. So that's tramline 2, that's tramline 3. I think those are about the same color. I think that's going to be close enough. In terms of vehicles for tramline 2, I'm going to go down to 3 vehicles. I don't think we need more than that. For tramline 3, it's 2 vehicles right now. I want to say that's probably good enough as well. I don't have any other trams in the Colossal Order ones, which I do like, but I think for now, we'll just stick with what we've got. And hopefully, we're gonna get to see all of these trams coming through here underneath the highway and heading around to our little park over here, which I think looks kind of neat. These ones are apparently going on to tramline 3, which is completely fine. So they're going to head out and do their thing. But I like that a lot. I do. I think that looks pretty cool. I really like the way the trams kind of come in and sweep around and do their thing. I'm also really looking forward to getting all of the rest of the buildings in here and just seeing this place sort of come alive a little bit. Although a little something I would also like to do is actually come in and take out the buildings from around this highway interchange, because I'm going to do something a little different with this block. I want to put some low rent buildings in here. And I feel like low rent buildings sort of make sense in this space strictly because I mean, look, I'm not, I just think lower rent apartments would be lower rent, right? They would be cheaper because they're surrounded by a highway interchange. That's all I'm saying with this. I want to put something different in this space. I don't think it should be the same old kind of German buildings in there. We could go for some UK flats. Oh, these are really cool, actually. That sort of like double tower thing going on. That's very, very cool. That's a really cool building. Do I want to go with this? That is the question. That is a level 5 version of this guy, which is kind of neat. What does the level 1 version look like? It's a fair bit smaller. I think we'll go for the level 3. That kind of middle ground seems pretty good. And I'm going to go for here for this guy. And it has room for 99 households, which is absolutely fantastic. Can I recolor you? Is that an option that we have? I actually can, which is pretty cool. I think we'll go for slightly darker kind of red brick on the sides. This is going to be the trim around the building. We'll go for nice, kind of nice white on that. And then I assume this is the green panels. Let's go for, I don't know what to go for these panels, honestly. I want to say like a slightly darker blue. It looks a bit weird, but I don't mind that too much. And again, it's 99 households, which is just fantastic news. We can detail around this in just a little bit, because I'm kind of thinking I want to do the same thing in the rest of these spaces. I might have to go for a slightly smaller building to make that happen, but we could go for something like this guy, which is about the same size as those ones. We could go for something a bit smaller, which I think would make more sense. So let's do a slightly smaller apartment building just here. And then can I get an even smaller one in here? Is that a ridiculous location for an apartment building? It sort of is. I say sort of is. It absolutely is a ridiculous location for an apartment building. But I don't... Oh, I like the blue on the sides of that one. That's very cool. Oh, I like that building a lot, actually. I think this is okay. It gets us some weird kind of density into the space. It breaks up an otherwise very, very level little skyline there. It does, unfortunately, block the view for the Ice Flake logo, but I think I can live with that, honestly. It doesn't block it from the highway, and I guess that's important for some reason. As for the rest of this space, I'm actually kind of thinking that using this little pedestrian street could be kind of a cool idea. Going in and turning off some of this zoning could be a cool idea, and then placing some more of these buildings in line with these guys might not be the worst idea in the world. We could potentially do 3 of them across here. Is that too much? That's too much. Oh, that's way too much. Okay, no. We're not doing that. What level are those buildings? Level 3? Ew. I was hoping that was the level 5 building, because then I could go for a slightly smaller one next to it, but I don't think that's gonna be what we do here. Let's have a little look and see what other options we have. I am just looking for UK buildings at the moment. I'll look kind of generally. We have these French ones, which do look really good, and they do get a fair bit higher as we level them up. We could give them like this. This to me, though, is just a bit too fancy, and I kind of want to use some of these French buildings maybe down by the water. But I guess this works. It's another bunch of UK buildings. I did paint them the same as the ones on the right, but I'm kind of feeling like 3 massive buildings right next to each other that are a fair bit darker isn't a great vibe. So I think we'll go back to this much lighter color that we have going on here. As for everything else, is this the roof? No, that's the trim. We'll keep that nice and white as well. Then this is all of the little balcony details, as well as the ground floor of the building. So you know what? Let's do my usual thing of going for red on one of them. We will copy that and then go to the next one and have it be green at the bottom, just because we can. And then we'll go paste it to this one and have that one be blue at the bottom. So a nice little RGB thing going on there with those 3 buildings. I think it looks kind of neat. I've actually done this before. I think if we go all the way over to these guys, I have done the RGB thing with, I think, the same buildings, actually. Yeah, I think it's the same core building. It's just that these ones don't have parking lots, which actually, do I want to do that with these ones as well and give them like a... No, I kind of actually like the parking lots in front. Although this is a pedestrian road, it's a one-way pedestrian road, so people can technically drive in here and park if they want to. Do I want that? Now I think about it. Do I really want that? Do we have any... So we have you. Do I have any... Like, this is... I think these are the buildings that I used over there. They do have a little park plaza thing next to them, which is fine. Oh, I think I'm going to use these instead. Hold on a second. Yeah, I think this is a little bit better. I do kind of like this. I also changed the colors to be cyan, magenta, and yellow instead of RGB because I'm a nerd. I figured that would kind of make sense. That is a lot of traffic trying to get in here right now. I mean, I guess we have just built a bunch of towers. This one is 52 households, 60 and 68. 99, 52, and 56. So there's a lot of people trying to move into this space. That absolutely makes sense. I am kind of wondering, though, what am I going to do across this section of road? I haven't really thought too much about this. And I'm kind of looking at it and thinking that, number one, it might not be a bad idea to give myself a little bit more room to work with here by getting rid of the zoning on these roads so that the zoning up here comes back a little bit. Number 2 is that I could go through and do another section of this little pedestrian road so that I get zoning right up to the train tracks here. I don't necessarily hate that. I think it looks kind of interesting. I don't think I need all of the space. So going back a little bit further here is not the worst idea in the world. Do I want to go right across these tram tracks? That's the real question. I don't necessarily know that I do. I'm kind of thinking we go here as well. So we have this right along that road so that we're using a bit more of that space. Although I'm also thinking that if I was to use the Netherlands low density buildings, I think they are a depth of 2. So I could even go this far back and get a bunch of grassy kind of green space in front of this. We'll figure it out. I'm not really too sure what buildings we're going to go for just yet. You know, I think we try it. I think we try the Netherlands low rent housing and just see how it turns out. It's well, I say see how it turns out. It is most distinctly 2 tiles deep with some buildings that are a bit wider in the middle. So you know what we're going to do? We're not going to just zone it. We're going to place it by hand because I can get a little bit fancy with it, I guess, and we'll see how that works out. So we are looking for specifically the Netherlands. We're looking for the low rent buildings, which look a bit like this. I know for a fact there's some wide ones that have some gaps in them like this, which I really, really like. I know there's some 5 wide ones that have the gap right in the middle though, and I think that's a little bit prettier. So that's kind of what we're going to go for. What is the widest corner building we have? This one. Okay, I can work with that. We could potentially do another one here, which I'm going to have to mess with a little bit to get it lined up with the other building because it's snapping to the zoning on this road, which is a bit weird right now. So we'll bring this guy over as best we possibly can to about there. I think is relatively seamless. And then what we can do is go back and define it, go back to our 5 wide, 4 wide, 5 wide, whichever lots, 5 wide lots. We get this guy, it goes there. We want to go all the way down here and do something like this as well. Get ourselves a left building for that corner and then just fill in the rest of this as best I possibly can. So we're going to go for some slightly wider buildings here like this guy and this guy. We do have, again, buildings that have some really nice little kind of park things going on, but I just don't necessarily know that I want to use those. We could, I guess, use more of these guys, which are pretty cool. And then maybe we have you and we have you. I don't know what the difference is in either of those buildings, to be quite honest with you. So I think we go for this one. And I'm probably also going to want to make sure that these are not all historical because I would like them to level up if and when that becomes a bit of an option. And then finally, I'm wanting to come back here and just do a bunch of pedestrian paths so that people can get around these buildings and through these buildings and also over to the post office and the school that we have here. That's kind of generally the overall idea with why I wanted to have those little gaps. I think it just looks really cool. We can also do a bunch of landscaping back here to try and mask the noise of the trains a little bit and just make the place a bit more pleasant to live in. Admittedly, as we know, it doesn't actually do anything. Placing a bunch of trees back here, it doesn't actually make things any quieter, unfortunately. I think it did in Cities Skylines 1. I don't think trees in Cities Skylines 2 actually make any real difference in terms of how loud or how much noise pollution reaches different buildings, which is really unfortunate because it would be kind of cool if they did. I kind of miss that. I also can't help but notice that I think my path is technically not going in a straight line. That really annoys me. Okay, hold on a minute. Why is this path not? Why is it it's slightly off down here at the end and I don't know why. And I'm just, it doesn't matter. I probably, no one would have really noticed, but I did, and I want it to not be. Is that now in line? It is. Okay, that's better. Okay, it's me again, Editor Dylan, back at you once again with a hot interjection. What am I doing? With an interjection into this time lapse as well, because this was another moment where I just got completely lost in the sauce. I have really kind of fallen in love with Cities Skylines 2 again with coming back to it for this series. And I should mention, I do have some plans to start some other cities alongside this one, but I really want to try and sort of find a nice little stride with Emerald County and sort of start working towards some other projects in Emerald County. I've got ideas for airports and all sorts of different things that I think could be very cool. But as for what we're doing right now, I'm just really enjoying throwing trees and bushes and surfaces and all sorts of things around these UK-style tower blocks. And this entire build here, this little section with the towers, is something that the city really needed. I'll admit that I'm apprehensive about adding more tower blocks and apartment buildings to Blackwater, because part of the goal, as we will come to talk about, of this series was to kind of keep things a little bit more low-key. Now, admittedly, part of the need for that goal was because the first city that I ever built in Cities Skylines 2, I just went crazy with. I just put high-density zoning everywhere. It wasn't really all that well thought out. There were some cool places, but for the most part, it was kind of just my first steps in this game. And as a result, it ended up with hundreds of thousands of sims, and it ran like absolute crap on my old PC. Now, fortunately, I've got a new PC and it's godly and amazing, and so everything in this game runs really well. I haven't tried loading up that old city, but the goal with Columbia County was to build on a slightly smaller scale, and that included not necessarily doing super high-rise buildings. So every single time I look at a tower block or any kind of skyscraper-ish building, I'm measuring it against the energy lobbying office that we have in downtown Blackwater. I'm making sure it's smaller than that, and I'm making sure that while we're creating a bit of a skyline here, we're not creating something that makes this feel like it's a sprawling metropolis. I still want this to feel like a city, but not, it shouldn't feel like a capital city. It shouldn't feel like it has, in a weird sense, it shouldn't have an iconic skyline. It should be a little bit more mellow, and I'm kind of hoping I've achieved that with what we've done here. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so once again, a build has kind of gotten away from me a little bit, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing in here. This is largely a bunch of low-rent residential zoning, all of these towers at the very least. Although I think these ones might actually be, are they low rent? I think they're just high density housing. I don't think they're low rent in the slightest, which is fine. We do still have a nice little mix of things going on in here with a bunch of parks and plazas and bushes and trees. And I generally just really like how this space is coming together. But it is taking a really long time to do all of this, so I'm not really too sure how much more we're going to get done today in terms of the space around the Ice Flake Arena. But what I would like to do is work on connecting and sort of, I guess, integrating is the word I'm looking for, the elevated bypass station into the rest of this zoning and this new district. So I want to start working on this area directly around it. I'd like to find a way to bring this tram line sort of out and around and into this space over here. And I think part of what I'm going to try and do here is go through and remove these trees and maybe even try to bring this road over here or the key road kind of into all of this. I'm considering actually getting rid, there's a lot of people parked in here. I'm considering getting rid of this section of road completely and bringing it right down and connecting it to the key. I'm not too sure if this is going to be a good idea or not, and I might deeply regret this because this road does follow that curve really nicely, but I think that's the right thing to do. I think we can keep that parking where it is. I'm not really wanting to get rid of that, but what I would like to do is just find some way, somehow, to bring this out here. So this would just come straight out this way. We'll bring it out to, I'm going to say about there for now. And then the key over here, I'm sort of thinking that we just kind of keep it where it is and maybe just bring it straight over, because that is actually going to line up pretty well with what we're doing. So we'll bring it to I'm going to say about that spot. I don't think that is actually a key road, unfortunately, but that's not really the end of the world. We can work with that. And then we'll just bring this entire thing straight over. I'm going to turn off a bunch of in fact, all my guidelines are already off. I just want it to go to there. So this road can actually go away, and maybe we just curve it around. That might make a bit more sense and give us a bit more of a pleasant looking road to work with. So if we go from here, we turn on our guidelines, we bring this down to ideally the middle of that road, although that doesn't seem to want to happen right now. So we'll go from this side instead. We'll get our guidelines again, bring this out as best we can. I think we'll bring it out just a little bit to there. And then my guidelines are hopefully going to work and do what I want them to do. This is a nightmare. Why? I just need it to connect. That's all I need it to do. I just need a nice little connection down here, and it doesn't want to do it for me. There we go. Okay, the next thing to do here is going to be to just ever so slightly bring the banks of this river back a little bit, because I do want that key wall to come over just a little bit further and just underneath what we have going on here. So if I take this bit of road out and I take this, maybe not that entire bit of road out, because it's going to be a pain to put it back, but if I take out just a chunk of that bit of road, and then hopefully we can go through here with this key wall, and hopefully it is going to do what I want it to do, which is go right to about there. That's not quite what I'm I love this game. I really do. The just the jank that you get out of City Skylines sometimes when you're using Move It and landscaping and all that. I just genuinely love it so much. It's some of the dumbest stuff that happens with City Skylines, but hopefully, does that fix it? That sort of does. We do have some weird zoning in there, but it's underneath train tracks and tram tracks and all that good stuff, so I'm not really too worried about a little bit of janky zoning here and there. You know, I realize that with this kind of layout that we have going on here, what I can actually do is just bring the trams the entire way around here, and that lets us connect into the train and bus station again. The only problem I'm having right now is figuring out where exactly the tram bridge is going to come over here, because that connects us to the tram depot, and that's how the trams actually get in here. That bit I have not figured out. Although, if I could take the trams up and over the train track to the right side of the train track, bring it around and maybe connect it to this little street here right into Magnolia Street, it could look sort of interesting, if a little bit weird. I want to say it's probably going to look more weird than interesting, but that's sort of my thinking right now. And that would kind of, let's see, how wide are the tram tracks here? They are 1U wide, so that would actually sort of work, and that might genuinely be my best bet for this whole thing. So we would want to bring this through to about, I want to say here. We're going to have to level that out, and we're going to have to bring the trams. I mean, here's the thing with this. This is not going to be a particularly busy section of tram track. This is just for trams to get from the depot to everywhere else, because this district, all of these tram tracks are connected around to here, so they can get around to the rest of Blackwater. It's just that I don't know that I want to do... Actually, bringing them down here would make a lot more sense now that I think about it. Instead of going here, we can take this out, we can take this out, and... Oh, no, I didn't realize that this little road here is going to be... That's going to be a bit of a problem. Okay. How do I want to do this then? I hadn't really thought about the fact that this actually does need a little connection here because it is a little small pedestrian street. Okay. I mean, that's annoying. I thought I was onto something with this. I am definitely not. When it came to detailing the space directly around our elevated train station, I've known for a while that I've wanted to have a lot of pedestrian space. I've known that, again, I wanted to go in with trees and bushes and surfaces. And this is actually kind of where the desire to put a bunch of trees and bushes and surfaces, not service anyway. this is kind of where that desire came from. I wanted this to kind of have a bit of a buffer between it and everything else. Now, City Skylines 2 doesn't have any system where trees will reduce noise pollution from train stations and industrial buildings and all that kind of stuff. But I still like to play the game as though it does, because I think City Skylines 1 was very good at that. I think it did have that system in place where the second one doesn't. And so in my head, even though that doesn't exist in City Skylines 2, I'm still building things with that in mind, and I'm still thinking, hey, if we're going to have people living relatively close to a train station, let's put a bunch of trees between them and the station to both sort of dampen the noise and also kind of improve the view, if not obscure the view of the station. And then in the spaces directly around it, walking up to the station, I want to make sure we have a lot of pedestrian access, because that's kind of the main goal of this entire district. Is I want it to be very walkable. I want there to be eventually a bunch of services in here so that people have places to go and places to work, and that they have medical coverage nearby, as well as policing and fire coverage nearby. But I also want them to be able to come out of their apartment, out of their house, walk a couple of blocks, and they're at the train station. Or they can hop on a bus and they're at the train station. Or hop on a tram and then hop on a bus and then you're at the train station. If you're walking to it, you're walking through plazas, you're walking through parks, you're surrounded by trees and bushes and nature. And even though you're in the heart of a city, it's kind of like, well, it's nothing like Central Park in New York, but it's that concept of just going into the park, and even though you're in the middle of the city, you're kind of surrounded in nature a little bit. I've never been to Central Park. I don't know I don't know how immersed in nature you necessarily feel right in the heart of Central Park, but I've seen movies. I've seen Home Alone. I think it was it Home Alone? It was Home Alone 2, I think, was the New York one, if I'm not mistaken. I've played Grand Theft Auto 4. It was set in Liberty City, which is the same thing, basically. So yeah, that's the idea. Even though you're in the heart of the city, you're in the heart of a modern, recently developed block of the city. I want a bunch of nature in here, and we can go back years and see that I've done this so many times before. One of my favorite ways to build a city is, you place a big skyscraper, you surround it in trees. That's kind of offsetting the skyscraper. And I guess, speaking of skyscrapers and towers, I do end up building a tower from the Chinese region pack, I think, down towards the river, because I thought we just needed something in here. I also put a couple of urban promenades buildings next to it and a custom little park plaza thing with a gazebo right in the middle. I think throughout everything I've done today, I ended up placing 3 gazebos, if I'm not mistaken. I know I placed 2, one by the university that I'm pretty sure is cut out of the video, and one here by this tower that I know is in the video, and I think there was a third one I might be misremembering. Anyway, that's the goal, is to sort of have that, what's the word, juxtaposition. If you've been around the channel for a while, you know I love the word juxtaposition, and you know that I love to contrast things with big towers and then lots of nature. It's just me. It's just what I do. I realize a lot of what I'm doing with this space is essentially just place a building and then surround it in trees and bushes and grass and hope that that makes it feel a bit more planted in the landscape. And I think it's working. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% confident, but I think it's working. And I mean, it is a little bit messy in a few places, but that's sort of by design. My main thing here, and what I'm really picturing in my head as I build this, is what would it be like to walk around this space? And while I imagine it will be kind of loud with the trams coming through and buses coming through and trains going through and the highway going through, I do think it would be kind of nice. I mean, I like that we have a lot of spaces that are very much for pedestrians. We have this little place that you can walk through here, and it's just a shortcut to get to the buses and the train station. We have this entire path across the back of the train station that's a quicker way to get in there. We have these paths here that go under the train tracks, the tram tracks, and the highway to get you around to this space. I mean, it's not luxurious. It's not super far away from train tracks and sources of noise, but there are a lot of spaces that are lined with bushes and trees and sort of nature that while they're not a complete escape from the hustle and bustle of the city, I still think, you know, it's not the worst looking space that you could walk through, especially here. I really love how this looks. I love the buildings. I love the highway sort of sweeping through, but then the trees down here. I really do enjoy some of these spaces. They're very, very cool. I mean, they're not perfect. There's a lot of work to still do in here, a lot of empty space that's not been detailed yet, but I really like how this is coming together. And so I think I'm going to come through and just add some bus stops here and there. I think right here we could do with one of these nice fancy bus stops, which means I can go in and take out the thick sidewalks that we have right there because we need someone for the buses to be able to pull into. I'm considering adding a thick bus stop just in here as well, just off of the main avenue. And then we can sort of connect the buses up to this little bus terminal thing. We could then have buses that sort of cut up through some of this space and then maybe just go back. So I guess what we do is we create a bus line. I think it's going to start, I kind of want to say down here, actually. So if we added maybe, do I want to do one of these fancy bus stops? I think I'm going to do a regular bus stop sign in here. So just the, oh wait, no, it's the one with the, yeah, we want to do the one with the bikes. We want to do this one. So this one right here, we'll take out the thick sidewalk. And then we want to go from here. This is going to be the start of our bus line. So from this spot, I want to cut right up through this neighborhood. I want to go into here, which takes us out onto that main road. That's totally fine. We're going to come through to here and we're going to cut up to this little guy right here. So we're going to go, I guess, to the first stop that we have. We're going to bring this out this way, which is totally fine. Do I want to bring it back in? This is the problem I'm now having looking at this. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It would be kind of looping around itself a little bit, but I guess it would be a way to get from out here to in here. Do I even want to maybe bring it in here since that's kind of an option? I don't have any bus lines in here right now, so it might not be the worst idea in the world to say, hey, let's bring the buses in this way and then bring them back along pretty much the same line. I guess we can do that. We're gonna try this out. I'm gonna give it its own little stop in here. I'm gonna use just a couple of waypoints to mark this out. It does mean that we can't go there, but we can go to this one-way road, which I'm totally fine with. And then we'll just bring it through to here, and that should be fine. I guess. It might be a little bit messy, but it should be all right. Let's just get the nice architectural bus stop and add it to, I'm going to say there. And then we need to add a nice architectural bus stop to this side of this road and make sure that our waypoints are turned into stops right here and a stop right down here as well. And then obviously this road kind of needs to lose its wide sidewalks, but that should be totally fine. And that should mean that we have buses sort of looping around this new space and doing their thing, which is fantastic. I would, oh, hold on a minute. We actually probably don't need a stop down here. We could probably move it to this road. And actually, looking at how traffic's going to be handled if I don't have that waypoint, I think that's exactly what I'm going to do, is just put it on the other side of this road instead and get rid of the stop on this one-way road, because it's just a little, I don't know, I don't love it. I don't love it. I don't think we need it. I think that's probably a little bit better. We can add this thick sidewalk back in there, and that should be okay. The only thing I'd like to do is make sure the bus line 11, number 1, is using our, I'm going to say electric buses would be a good shout for this. And I think the color is going to be sort of that bright kind of blue that we have right there, similar to the trams that are going around this space. And would you look at this? We have so many people already waiting to hop on a bus to head into that new district or beyond. They might be going to the train station. That's absolutely a possibility. Looking at the train station, though, we have a bunch of people in here as well. Looking at this little bus station, we have some people waiting around, which is exactly what we want to see. Looking down to here, we have some people waiting as well. I love that. Oh, hold on a minute. I totally forgot to get rid of that wider sidewalk there. I am so sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry for that. That was... Oh, I've accidentally turned someone into a wizard. That's fine. We have our bus going around. It's a little bit confused at that junction, but we'll not worry too much about it. Oh, I love that. I do. I love that we actually have people coming and going. That's fantastic news. This traffic is less fantastic, but I'm so happy with this. I'm also really happy that we're up to 43,000 people in Columbia County now. Not that that's done anything for the not enough customers problem that we're having. That's actually really concerning. And thus far, the only thing we put a dent in would be our commercial demand. And we can have a look at some numbers. If we go and have a look at our workplace availability, we now have, oh wow, this is not as good as I thought it was. I was kind of expecting to see that maybe we do have enough employees, but we're still almost 700 short when it comes to open positions. So that's not ideal. That means that we do in fact need more housing, which checks out. To be fair, that makes sense. I was kind of thinking as I was building all of this that we probably do want more housing in here. We probably want to get rid of a lot of the mixed, well, not get rid of, but maybe not build more of the mixed use residential and instead focus on purely residential zoning for a while. So this is going to be our final time lapse of today's episode. This whole thing has wound up being so much longer than I necessarily wanted it to be, although I can't say I'm surprised given how long I spent recording this entire thing, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little bit full of anxiety about putting this episode out there, because ultimately every time I've zoomed out of this project, I look at it and I think, man, I've really done nothing. I mean, I've done a lot. I admit a lot of that 6 hours was, deleting things and doing it again, but I've done a lot. Anyway, what we're doing here for this last little section is just filling in some of the blanks and filling in some of the spaces around some of the German buildings that we've placed. I'm not 100% sure that all of these details are going to stay, especially on the back sides of the German buildings. It just feels a little bit too empty, and it feels like space along this avenue really should have a bunch of buildings, and it really should be a little bit more dense than I'm making it here. I don't think this is somewhere that a park would necessarily exist, although we do have more towers in here as well, again from the Chinese region pack. I love some of the towers in this. They have some really great density to them without being absolutely huge, and they really match the scale of what I'm doing with both Columbia County and Blackwater specifically, and we can recolor them at least partially so they just look great. They have some nice orange in the front contrasted with some nice blues as well. I love this space. I really wasn't too sure what to do with it, but I think having that little break between some of the German buildings, some of these Chinese apartment buildings, and then more German buildings all alongside the highway, I love this little part. This part was one of the quickest to build as well. I think I was really finding my stride with detailing and getting things done quickly. And so, yeah, this is our final time lapse. I'm quite happy with this one. I hope you are as well. Okay, so we are so far from being done with this redevelopment of Blackwater, but this has wound up being the longest recording session for City Skylines that I have done in possibly a decade. And I'm not kidding. I don't know how long this video is going to turn out. I really have no idea. But thus far, I have spent 5.5 hours on what we're looking at here. And I'm not saying that like, oh, woe is me. Like, there are people that spend months building amazing things in City Skylines 2, and I will never hold a candle to those people, but I like what I've done here. I'm happy with what I've done, and I'm proud of me. And so I figured, before we wrap things up, because I really don't know, not only do I not know how long this video is going to be, I'm pretty sure that most of it's going to end up being a time lapse that I commentate over, which by this point you'll be aware of because I'll have done it, but it's going to be a weird one. I figure we'll take a moment and fly through some of the stuff that I've done, talk about some of my ideas, and kind of the idea behind certain decisions. So first things first, obviously we do have the old bus depot here that replaces the base game bus depot that we had built in the previous episode. This thing I just love. I've probably talked about it already in the intro of the video, so I don't want to spend too long on this, but my thought process with this thing was that we would use this as a bit of a focal point for this end of the city, and that I could also use this as a focal point for this avenue once we have buildings on both sides. So I figured having some German buildings on this side of the highway next to the Netherlands buildings would be kind of interesting. I'm not 100% sold on these, but I do like what I'm seeing so far, and it ties into the idea that maybe this part of town has existed a little bit longer than, you know, in the last 5 hours. I did end up placing some buildings from the China creator pack thing in between these German buildings and the rest of them. These apartment buildings range from like 50 households to 19, and I just thought they looked really cool. They filled in the space pretty well, and they stand alone really nicely while also all having the same color scheme and whatnot, and it gives me some room to do more landscaping around them, which for the most part, for everything I've done here, has just been the same handful of trees, the same handful of bushes, and that hedge net lane thing that we have down here, this hedge is doing so much heavy lifting. Oh, that's a really cool view, actually. It's doing so much heavy lifting throughout all of this, but I really do think it's bringing it all together really nicely. And then obviously continuing from that Netherlands region that we built in the last episode, we kind of come up this way with some, I think these buildings are from the US Southwest pack. I don't remember what they were from, but obviously we built these. It looks pretty neat. We continue into some UK style tower blocks for a bunch of apartments and some low rent buildings from that Netherlands pack once again to sort of line the train line that we have here. I don't know what it is. The view going back this way a little bit and just sort of seeing how that whole area continues with the highway on one side and the train lines on the other. I love this. It's not a great view, but it looks cool, and there's just something about it that I really, really enjoy. And then moving into the area that we started with, I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to keep all of these German buildings exactly as they are. I might end up going around and placing a bunch of them by hand and then changing the colors a little bit just to get a different vibe in here, if that's a thing. I think you can do that with the German buildings. I don't remember, but I think this is a really solid proof of concept for what I want this area to be. I do want to have that transition from the German buildings into the urban promenades buildings, and I would like to maybe get rid of the grass on top of the urban promenades buildings as well. I know there's a couple of ways to do that with some stuff from PDX mods. That's something I'm gonna tackle, I think, between episodes, because it's not going to be super interesting to get rid of that grass, but I think it'll give the district a bit of a different vibe, because right now you zoom out, you look at it, and instantly you go, oh, those are the urban promenades buildings, and also they're all the same building still technically, but that's okay for now. I think, again, as a proof of concept, this really works. You know, we're transitioning from these older buildings to these newer buildings to this newer development with this sort of little transit hub in here and the Ice Flake Arena, which I still want this thing to be a focal point of the district. I still want this to be something that's like really right at the heart of everything we're doing in this space. And that's ultimately why I haven't done too much building directly around this thing, because, I mean, this to me, the arena and this little transit station are all kind of one thing. Not, you know, the arena is owned by the arena, the transit stuff's owned by the city, but it's like, this is the Ice Flake Arena tram stop, the Ice Flake Arena bus stop or station or whatever you want to call it. So it's all supposed to be part of the same entertainment arena complex thing. I want people to be able to get here super easily. And so far they can, because 1, there's not a lot of traffic, and 2, we have trams, 3, we have buses, and 4, honestly, most people are just walking around here. So my goal to have this place be super pedestrian friendly has actually worked. And then finally, we have the train station. I still love this asset. I still think it looks absolutely fantastic. I did decide to throw another couple of urban promenade buildings down here next to it and one of the Chinese apartment buildings, because I think this asset looks fantastic. I love that down below here we have some multi-story parking. I think that's very, very cool to have that inside and underneath the building. And I just thought we kind of needed a little bit of verticality out here, just something right down here on the coast, on the riverbank, just to make things look a little bit different. And also, I'm pretty sure that the energy lobbying tower over there in the distance, that is still the tallest building in Blackwater. I've been very, very careful to make sure that none of the buildings I'm putting out here are actually going to be taller than that one. And I'm also trying to avoid creating... I mean, we've kind of got like a little skyline emerging here. It is ultimately a lot of the same building that I've used to do that, but I'm trying to make something that's not... In a weird way, I don't want it to be too eye-catching, and I know that's like, it's not, and I'm not really at risk of doing that. And to be fair, the Blackwater skyline itself isn't really all that eye-catching either. It's pretty bland. I'm trying to be mindful that this is not supposed to be a massive metropolis, right? It's really not. It's supposed to be kind of mid-rise at most, with a couple of outlying buildings like the energy lobbying office and whatever we've got going on here, and the arena kind of goes against that, but I'm trying to keep kind of the soul of Blackwater in here. I don't know if that makes sense, but if you've been following this series for like the year and a half it's been going, you'll know what I mean from those early episodes where I was really trying to avoid building anything taller than, I mean, mid-rise row houses. But I think that is gonna do us for today. This has been a lot of fun. This has really genuinely been an absolute pleasure as always. And I suppose, as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.